Jessa Owens didn't mean to cry, not here, not in public, but the tears came anyway, hot and silent, as she stared down at the untouched plate of pasta in front of her at the dimly lit Italian restaurant on West 52nd. She tried to wipe them away quickly, hoping the low lighting would save her dignity, but it was too late. Someone had noticed. "Are you okay?" A deep voice asked, gently but firmly. Jessa looked up, startled. The man standing next to her table didn't look like a waiter. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a gray suit that looked straight out of a luxury magazine. His dark hair was tousled in a way that seemed accidental but probably wasn't, and his eyes, sharp, focused, were locked onto her like she was the only person in the room. "I'm fine," she said quickly, brushing her sleeve across her cheek and giving a shaky smile. "Really? You're sitting alone, crying into a $28 plate of gnocchi. That doesn't look fine." She almost laughed. "Almost? That's oddly specific." He gave a small grin. "Well, I own the place. Bad habit, I know everything on the menu." Of course he did. "You're the owner, Elias Jennings," he said, sliding into the seat across from her without asking. "I normally wouldn't do this, but you look like you could use some company." "I don't need pity," she said, folding her arms, but he didn't flinch. His expression stayed calm, open, not offering pity. "Just a seat," he said. "If you want me to leave, say the word." Jessa hesitated. There was something strange about him. Not just the tailored suit or the way the waiter instantly glanced over when Elias snapped his fingers to order a bottle of wine. No, it was the way he looked at her. Like he actually cared. "You can stay," she said finally. "But I'm not exactly a fun dinner date tonight." "Lucky for you," he said, settling in. "I've had enough boring dinners to last me a lifetime. Try me." She sighed. "I got fired today. My boyfriend of 4 years broke up with me over coffee. And then I realized I left my wallet at home, so I can't even pay for this meal I don't want to eat." Elias blinked. "Okay, that's a lot." "Yeah," she muttered. "Today's been a masterpiece." He leaned forward. "Well, first, your meal's on the house." "Obviously. You don't have to do that. I want to. And second," he paused, eyes narrowing slightly with something like curiosity. "Second, you smile more than I expected for someone who just had the worst day of their life." Jessa rolled her eyes but couldn't help the tiny twitch of her lips. "That's your version of comfort. It's honest. Your smile is unexpected, disarming. You're strange," he laughed. It was a deep, warm sound that made her insides twist in a way they hadn't in a long time. "Tell me something about yourself," he said. She narrowed her eyes. "Why?" "Because I want to know who I just rescued from gnocchi despair." Jessa hesitated, then leaned back. "I'm a graphic designer." "Freelance, or I just got fired from my biggest client." "Do you want me to call them and yell at them?" She stared. "I'm kidding," he said, holding up his hands. "Mostly. Do you want another glass of wine?" She laughed. Actually laughed this time, and something in his face softened when she did. They talked, for hours, about everything and nothing. She told him about her childhood in Michigan, how she moved to New York with nothing but 2 suitcases and a dream. He told her vague things about businesses he ran, restaurants he owned, and places he'd traveled to. But he didn't talk about himself much, and she didn't push. When the restaurant finally started clearing out, Jessa blinked at her watch. "It's almost midnight." "Time flies when you're not crying," Elias said, and she nudged his leg under the table with a playful scoff. "You're lucky you're kind of charming." He leaned in. "So I've earned a second dinner." "I didn't say that." "But you didn't say no." She bit her lip, hesitating. "Why are you being so nice to me?" His expression changed barely, but she saw it, a flicker of something more serious. "Because when I saw you crying, I couldn't walk away. And now that I've seen your smile, I don't want to." She swallowed hard. "That's a line." "It's not," he said quietly. "It's not a line at all." He stood and extended his hand to her. "Come on, let me walk you out." She hesitated but placed her hand in his. His palm was warm, strong, steady. Outside, the city buzzed with its usual midnight noise. Elias turned to her. "Where do you live?" "Harlem." "I'll have my driver take you." "You have a driver?" He shrugged like it was no big deal. "It's late, and you've had a day." "Let me do one thing right." The sleek black Mercedes pulled up seconds later, The driver stepped out, opened the door. Jessa turned to Elias. "Thank you for everything. You can thank me with dinner tomorrow." She raised a brow. "You're really not going to let this go?" "Nope," she smiled, something fluttering in her chest. "Okay, dinner. I'll pick you up at 7. How do you know where I live?" "I don't. Yet." They exchanged numbers, and he helped her into the car like it was the most natural thing in the world. As the car pulled away, Jessa leaned back and stared out the window, touching her lips. She hadn't smiled like that in months. And somehow, the man who saw her at her worst had made her feel like she was worth something again, and he hadn't even kissed her, not yet. Jessa stood on the sidewalk outside her apartment building, staring at the unfamiliar black car idling at the curb. The driver stepped out and opened the door without a word, nodding respectfully. She hadn't expected that, actually. She hadn't expected anything. When she agreed to dinner, she thought Elias might suggest a cafe, maybe a nice bistro, but a chauffeured car? That was something else entirely. She hesitated for only a second, then climbed in. The ride downtown was quiet, the city slipping past the window like a moving painting. When the car finally stopped, the driver opened the door, revealing a towering building of glass and steel. A doorman greeted her with a slight bow and ushered her in. She was led through a marble-floored lobby into an elevator that required a keycard. The doors opened on the top floor. There, Elias waited. He wore a navy button-down with the sleeves rolled up, the collar open just enough to be effortless but polished. He didn't smile broadly when he saw her. Instead, something flickered in his eyes, an unreadable intensity that made her breath catch. "You came," he said. "I said I would." "I wasn't sure," he replied, stepping closer. "You hesitated when you said yes. I make a habit of not trusting strangers who buy me dinner for no reason." He watched her for a moment. "Fair, but you're not a stranger to me anymore." She looked around. The penthouse was nothing like she imagined. Instead of cold modernity, it was warm. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around the living room, but the furniture was soft-toned, full of texture, leather, velvet, brushed brass. A record player spun in the corner, playing low jazz that hummed through the air like a heartbeat. A long table was set for 2, candles flickering, wine already poured. "This isn't a restaurant," she said cautiously. "No," he said. "I thought we could eat here." "Why?" "Because I wanted you to see where I live." She turned toward him slowly. "That's not casual, neither are you." She should have backed away. Instead, she stepped closer. "You're very sure of yourself." "I'm sure about you," he said simply. The food was brought in by a quiet staff, trays of roasted sea bass, grilled asparagus, and citrus risotto. None of it was overdone or flashy. It was thoughtful. "You're not what I expected," she said, slicing into the fish. "And what did you expect? Someone who'd want something in return." He leaned back. "And what do you think I want?" She met his gaze. "Honestly, I don't know, but people don't go through this much trouble without a motive." He didn't look away. "I didn't do this to impress you. I did it because you felt unfinished, like if I let you walk away, I'd never forgive myself." Jessa's throat tightened. "That's a lot to put on someone you just met." "Maybe, or maybe I just know what it feels like to be alone in a room full of people and still feel invisible." She blinked. "That's oddly specific." He gave a quiet laugh. "You make that sound familiar." She toyed with her fork. "My parents didn't believe in celebrating anything. Birthdays, holidays, graduations, they said it made people selfish." "You learn not to expect much after that." Elias didn't interrupt or try to soften it. He just listened. "I never understood why it hurt so much," she added. "But it did. Still does sometimes." He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. "I don't know what kind of people would let you go through life without being celebrated, but they were wrong." She swallowed. "What about you? You said you knew what it felt like." He hesitated. "My father built most of this city's skyline. I grew up in boardrooms and on private jets. But he never asked me what I wanted. He just expected me to be him." "Did you?" "I tried. Until the day I realized I hated every part of what I'd become." She looked around. "But you still live like this." "I live differently now," he said. "I own things I care about. Restaurants, art galleries, a vineyard upstate. I walk away from anything that doesn't make me feel alive. And I make you feel alive." His smile was slow, quiet. "You make me feel something I haven't in a long time." She looked down, heart racing. This is fast. It is, he agreed. But I'm not going to pretend I don't want to know everything about you. She stood, suddenly needing space. You don't know me. I know enough. She walked to the window, arms folded. I don't want to be someone's distraction or pet project. You're not, he said, standing behind her. If you think that's all this is, then leave. I won't stop you. She turned to face him. You're impossible, but you're still here. A long silence stretched. Then she said quietly, I didn't want to be alone tonight. You're not. She looked up at him and something in her chest cracked open. I don't fall easily, she warned. Then let's not call it falling, he said. Let's call it beginning. She didn't answer. But when he reached out slow, cautious, she let him take her hand. And this time, she didn't pull away. Jessa stepped into the gallery, her heels echoing softly against the polished concrete floor. The space was wide and open, with high ceilings and massive windows that let the afternoon light spill across the walls. She wasn't sure what she expected when Elias invited her to see one of his favorite places in the city, but this wasn't it. He stood near the center of the room, his jacket draped over one arm, his shirt sleeves rolled just enough to make him look perfectly undone. He was speaking quietly to a woman holding a clipboard, but when he saw Jessa, his attention shifted entirely. You found it, he said, striding toward her. You gave me the address, she replied, but there was a warmth in her voice she couldn't hide. I was worried it wouldn't be your kind of place. It's beautiful, she said, glancing around at the canvases. Are all of these yours? I own the gallery. The pieces belong to the artists. I just make sure they're seen. She turned toward a large abstract painting with swirls of ochre and deep rust. That one feels like it's trying to say something. It is, he said, stepping beside her. She painted it right after her mother passed. Said it was the first thing she could feel after months of nothing. Jessa was quiet for a moment. Did you ever paint? No, he said, but for a while I tried to write music. Badly, she looked at him, surprised. You don't seem like someone who does things badly. I do plenty badly. Singing's one of them, patience is another. She let out a soft laugh. You seemed patient with me. I wasn't, I just didn't want to scare you off. She turned to face him fully. Why me? Elias studied her a moment before answering. Because I've met people who were perfect on paper, polished. Predictable, you're not any of those things, you're real. That sounds dangerously close to romantic. It's not romance, he said, voice low. It's recognition. She looked away, unsure what to do with that. Her gaze landed on a sculpture across the room, twisted metal that looked simultaneously like it was falling and lifting. You brought me here to impress me. I brought you here because this is where I come when I can't think straight, he said. I wanted you to see something that matters to me. Jessa folded her arms. You barely know me. He stepped closer, voice quieter. Then let me. She didn't answer. Instead, she walked slowly along the wall, pausing at a canvas that was nothing but a single, wide brushstroke of navy blue. It was bold, unapologetic, and somehow heartbreakingly lonely. What about that one? She asked. Elias came up behind her. The artist called it one, said it was about choosing to be alone instead of being with the wrong person. Jessa swallowed. That's not a bad choice. No, Elias said. But it's still lonely. She turned to face him. You think I've been with the wrong people? I think you've been with people who didn't see you, he said. And I think that's criminal. She stared at him, unsure how to respond to a man who didn't flinch from honesty. I'm not good at this, she said finally. Letting people in. I'm not asking for all of you, he said, just a little more than yesterday. That night they walked through the city together, no car, no driver. Just the two of them, moving slowly through winding streets and hidden alleyways that Elias seemed to know by heart. He showed her a bookstore that stayed open past midnight, a hidden garden behind a wrought iron gate, and a bakery that sold espresso cinnamon buns only on Tuesdays. You've lived here your whole life, she asked as they sat on a bench with paper cups of tea in hand. Most of it. I left for a while, tried to disappear, but the city pulls you back. Why did you try to disappear? He hesitated, then said, after my father died, I inherited everything, money. Properties, a board seat on 5 companies I didn't want. I panicked. I vanished for 3 months, bought a motorcycle, drove across the country, her brows lifted. You, on a motorcycle? helmet and everything, he said. I stayed in motels, ate food from gas stations. No one recognized me, and that helped. It reminded me who I was before all the expectations. And who was that? He turned to her. Someone who wanted to build things, not just own them. Jessa was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "My mom used to tell me that every time you make something, you put a piece of your soul into it. That's why I became a designer." He looked at her, something shifting in his expression. "That explains a lot." "Like what?" "Why you feel like someone worth waiting for." She stared down at her cup, heart thudding. "You make everything sound so simple. It's not. But it can be honest." They sat there until the streetlights cast long shadows across the sidewalk and the bakery closed its shutters. He didn't try to kiss her. He just walked her home, silent the last 2 blocks, as though even his presence was something he didn't want to overstep. At her door, she paused, keys in hand. "I don't let people in easily," she said softly. "I'll wait on the other side," he replied, "until you're ready." She didn't say goodnight. She just opened the door, stepped inside, and closed it behind her. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she was shutting someone out. She felt like maybe, just maybe, someone was waiting to be let in for the right reasons. Jessa's fingertips hovered above the intercom buzzer, her breath visible in the cold evening air. The last time she stood outside Elias's penthouse, she'd been unsure of everything: his intentions, her place in his world, even her own heart. But things had changed since then. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the guarded space inside her had begun to shift. The door opened before she could press the button. "I saw you from the window," Elias said, stepping aside. "I didn't know if I should come up," she admitted, walking in. "I told you I'd wait on the other side," he said, closing the door behind her, "and I meant it." The penthouse was quiet. No music, no staff, just the soft hum of the city below and the low crackle of the fireplace flickering in the corner. "I've been thinking," she said, shrugging off her coat. "That sounds dangerous," Elias teased, but his eyes were serious. "I'm not used to someone making room for me," she said. "Or letting me take my time. You don't take up space, Jessa, you transform it. There's a difference." She looked at him, her voice low. "I'm scared, I know. And I'm also done pretending I'm not." He stepped closer, his expression unreadable. "What do you want?" "I want to stop looking for reasons not to trust you." Elias reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded envelope. "Then I need to be honest about something." She hesitated before taking it. Inside was a photo: a woman standing in front of a restaurant, smiling, unaware she was being photographed. She looked younger, her hair shorter, but it was unmistakably her. There was a date in the corner. 2 weeks before they met. "How did you?" "I saw you before that night," he said. "I was walking past the park across from La Corsa. You were sitting on a bench, sketching something. I don't know what made me stop. There was something about you, your focus, the way you kept tucking your hair behind your ear without realizing it. I had someone find out who you were." Her fingers tightened around the photo. "You had me followed, once," he said quickly. "To make sure you were real. I know how that sounds. I don't have an excuse. I just ended a business deal that went sideways because someone lied about who they were. I was paranoid. And when you saw me at the restaurant, crying, I'd already memorized your face," he said. "I wasn't supposed to be there that night. I was supposed to be in Chicago for a meeting, but I canceled last minute. When I saw you, I thought I don't care how it looks. I have to talk to her." Jessa backed away, the weight of the photo in her hand like a stone. "You should have told me. I was afraid you'd leave before I had the chance to prove I'm not that man anymore." She stared at him. "That's not the kind of thing you get to decide for me." "I know," he said. "Which is why I'm giving you the choice now." He walked to the far end of the room and picked up a small box from the mantel. When he opened it, she expected jewelry, but inside was a single brass key. "I bought the building across from Central Park," he said. "The one with the rooftop greenhouse. It's being converted into studio spaces. One of them is yours, no strings, no conditions. Just somewhere for you to build something with your name on the lease." Her chest rose and fell, slow and uneven. "Why would you do that?" "Because you told me once that you left home with 2 suitcases and a dream," he said. "Maybe it's time someone helped you carry the dream." She blinked fast. "I don't want to be a project. You're not. You're a person I'm falling in love with, her heart stuttered. Elias, I'm not asking for anything tonight, he said. If you walk out that door, I won't stop you. I'll still make sure the lease is in your name. I'll still be proud to know you. She stepped forward, the key still nestled in the box between them. I've spent so long trying to prove I didn't need anyone, she whispered, but maybe I just didn't know how to let the right person in. He looked at her, his voice a thread. Then let me in. She took the box from his hands and held it to her chest. The silence that followed was not empty, it was full of everything unsaid, everything forgiven. I don't want to keep waiting, she said. Not if you mean it. He stepped forward, closing the final distance between them, his hands cupping her face as gently as if she were made of porcelain and memory. I've never meant anything more in my life. Then he kissed her. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't rushed. It was slow, reverent, like a promise unfolding breath by breath. And when they finally pulled apart, neither of them spoke. They didn't have to. Later that week, Jessa stood on the rooftop of her new studio, surrounded by empty canvases and sunlight. Elias appeared holding 2 cups of coffee and a crooked grin. You're early, she said. I missed you, he answered simply. She reached for the coffee, her fingers brushing his, and smiled. I think I'm finally starting to believe this is real. It is, he said, pulling her into his arms. And it's just the beginning. Below them, the city moved forward, but up here in this moment, they had everything they needed: trust hard-won, love unexpected, and a future they never saw coming together. The first time Jessa introduced Elias to her sister, she nearly canceled twice. Standing outside the brownstone walk-up in Brooklyn, she adjusted the strap of her bag and exhaled slowly. She's going to ask questions. Elias glanced at her, one hand tucked in the pocket of his slate-colored coat, the other holding a paper bag of pastries. That's usually how siblings work. She doesn't trust anyone who wears cufflinks. Jessa, he said, turning to face her fully, I'm not here to impress your sister, I'm here for you. Inside, the apartment smelled like roasted garlic and something sweet. Maria greeted them in a flour-dusted apron, her hair piled in a messy bun and her eyes sharp behind thick glasses. You're taller than you look in pictures, she said to Elias without preamble. Good to know, he replied easily, holding out the pastry bag. I brought almond croissants. The kind from that place on 47th. Maria narrowed her eyes. Those are impossible to get after 9. I know a guy. She took the bag. You can stay. Over dinner, Maria grilled him with the precision of a surgeon. Elias didn't flinch once. He answered every question with quiet honesty: how long he'd been divorced, why he walked out of his father's company, what he saw in Jessa that made him rethink everything. When Maria finally excused herself to check on her twin toddlers, Jessa leaned in. You handled that better than I expected. I like her. She interrogated you. She loves you. I'd be worried if she didn't. Later that night, back at her studio, Jessa stood by the tall windows overlooking the park, wrapped in one of Elias's sweaters. He came in silently, barefoot, 2 mugs of chamomile tea in hand. She asked me if I was going to marry you, he said, handing her one. And I said yes. Jessa stared at him. You said yes. I didn't say when, just that I would, eventually. If you'll have me, she set the mug down on the windowsill. That's a big thing to say casually. It's not casual, but I'm not going to put pressure on you. I just want to be clear about where I stand. He stepped behind her, arms circling her waist. She leaned into the warmth of him without hesitation. I used to think people like you didn't exist, she whispered. That someone could be powerful and kind, that someone could see me for more than what I do. I don't care what you do, he said softly against her hair. You could stop designing tomorrow and you'd still be the person I want to wake up next to. She turned in his arms. I don't want to stop designing. I want to build something that lasts. Then let's do it together. 3 weeks later, they launched their first collaboration, a public art installation on the rooftop garden of the building Elias had renovated. Jessa designed the structure, a sweeping canopy of steel and glass shaped like open hands, while Elias handled the logistics and funding. The opening night was packed with artists, philanthropists, and local kids who'd helped during construction. As the sun dipped below the skyline, Jessa stood beside him, fingers laced with his. "I didn't think it would feel this real," she said. "It's only the beginning." In the months that followed, the studio flourished. Jessa hired 2 interns from a local arts program and began work on a children's book based on her old sketches. Elias stepped down from 3 board positions to focus on the projects that mattered, most of them with her. They traveled to Lisbon to scout galleries, spent weekends at the vineyard he rarely talked about, and hosted intimate dinners at the penthouse where laughter echoed louder than any music. Every day they carved out a life that was theirs, not curated or manufactured, but lived. One rainy afternoon, Jessa was sketching by the window when Elias walked in holding a small velvet box. She raised a brow. "You're not doing this now?" "I'm not asking," he said, opening the box to reveal a slim silver band. "I'm promising." She looked up at him. "Promising what?" "That I will never stop building this life with you, that I will always let you take your time, that I will never make you smaller." Her voice cracked. "You already gave me everything." "No," he said. "I gave you what you deserved. This," he held the ring up. "This is what I hope you'll choose." She took it from the box and slid it onto her finger without another word. They didn't throw a wedding. Instead, they hosted a rooftop dinner for 20 people, family, friends, and a few strangers who had become far more than acquaintances. Maria made the cake. Elias wore a dark gray suit with no tie. Jessa wore a silk dress the color of storm clouds. They exchanged vows beneath the sculpture she had designed, with the city glittering behind them and violins playing softly in the distance. When the guests had gone and the candles burned low, Elias pulled her into a slow dance under the stars. "You're not what I expected," she whispered. "Neither are you," he replied, and neither of them would have it any other way. They spent their days creating, traveling, and loving without apology. No secrets, no waiting. Just a life built from the ground up, imperfect, unforgettable, and entirely their own, always together, always home.